Thanks for joining us here on WCNC Charlotte and WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal.
And I'm Nick Sertevant. Governor Josh Stein giving an update on the dangerously cold temperatures we're dealing with. Let's listen in.
Conditions, especially in those areas that receive the wintry precipitation. For those who live along the coast or in areas that receive snow or sleet, please avoid driving unless it is absolutely necessary to travel. When precipitation falls tonight, there will be possible accumulation due to cold ground temperatures. If you have to drive, monitor weather conditions before traveling. Drivers should avoid slippery road conditions. Elsewhere in the state, people are experiencing dangerously bitter cold temperatures. Many communities have opened warming stations for those who need safe refuge from cold temperatures. You can find information on resources in your community by visiting your local government or emergency management agency's website and social media accounts. This morning, in addition to Director Ray, I'm also joined by the Adjutant General of the North Carolina National Guard, Major General Todd Hunt, Secretary of Public Safety, Eddie Buffalo, Commander of the State Highway Patrol, Colonel Freddie Johnson, and DOT Chief Operating Officer Chris Peoples. At this point, I'll turn it over to Emergency Management Director Will Ray to provide some updates on the weather forecast.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, everyone. As we move into tonight, portions of central and eastern North Carolina may experience winter precipitation in the form of sleet and snow, and the entire state, as the governor said, will experience bitterly cold conditions. A winter storm warning is in effect starting today at 5 p.m. for the entire North Carolina coastline and inland counties in far eastern North Carolina. The current forecast places the greatest snowfall totals across the Outer Banks and northeastern coastal counties, Carteret, southern Craven, Pamlico, Terrell, and Hyde counties, where 6 to 8 inches of snowfall is possible. A winter weather advisory is also in effect for counties in eastern North Carolina and into much of central North Carolina beginning at 4 p.m. today, where 1 to 3 inches of snowfall is possible, particularly in our eastern counties. A cold weather advisory remains in effect for the entire state tonight through midday tomorrow. Wind chill values as low as 14 below zero will be possible across the mountains, and single digits down to 0 degrees are possible across the state tonight into tomorrow. In both Ashe and Watauga counties, an extreme cold warning remains in effect tonight and into tomorrow, where wind chill values as low as 15 below zero are possible. We've been monitoring the weather system and possible impacts late last week and through this weekend. And while we could continue to see some changes in forecast track and impacts, we activated portions of the State Emergency Response Team to ensure that we are postured to support our local communities and our state partners. The State Emergency Operations Center in Raleigh and our Regional Coordination Center East activated this morning, and we have proactively deployed components of the North Carolina National Guard into the eastern part of the state to support any local emergency services and public safety needs. These include multiple all-hazards response teams with 4x4 capability, staged for deployment, as well as 2 hotspot teams to support the Department of Transportation with road clearance, same as we do in the West. State and local emergency management personnel will remain in close coordination to ensure all resources are available and ready to respond for needs that may arise. There are currently 25 local emergency operations centers that are either at monitoring or open to manage the potential winter weather situation. 17 school systems and the Cherokee Tribal Schools are closed today, with 6 delayed starts being reported due to the cold temperatures this morning. An additional 7 school systems have implemented their remote learning protocols, and 8 school systems in eastern North Carolina are releasing early today. In areas that receive sleet and snowfall, accumulation is likely due to the cold ground temperatures, and we should expect slick roadway conditions. If you do not need to be on the road, please stay home for your safety and for the safety of our first responders and DOT personnel that may be out. If you have questions about roadway conditions, as always, please visit drivenc.gov. North Carolina continues to experience some of the coldest temperatures in quite some time, and I would like to remind all North Carolinians of a few key points this week. First is that extremely cold temperatures, like what we are experiencing, can be very dangerous. Please make sure that you and your family are prepared. And as we move through the week, please make sure you're dressing in layers, covering exposed skin, limiting time outdoors, specifically taking care of pets and other animals, and conserving energy where you can. You can find more about how to ensure that your family is ready for cold temperatures and winter weather by visiting readync.gov. Second is that ice may also form on ponds, creeks, and rivers with temperatures like we're experiencing. In North Carolina, the ice is never safe for anyone or pets to walk on. While it is a rare sight here, please enjoy it from the safety of the shore. Finally, for those in western North Carolina continuing to recover from the devastation of Tropical Storm Helene, if you need resources, assistance with housing, or help navigating the recovery process, please call the North Carolina Disaster Case Management Program at 1-844-746-2361 or visit ncdps.gov/Helene. The North Carolina Disaster Case Management Program was established to guide survivors through the recovery process, to assist with making a recovery plan to fit those individual needs, and to find resources to assist each survivor. As a reminder, you do not have to apply for FEMA assistance to receive assistance through this state program. Thank you, Governor.
I also want to thank the DOT crews who've been preparing for the storm and have begun pre-treating roads, focusing on eastern North Carolina. During winter weather, just like any severe weather situation in our state, the number one priority for all of us is to keep people safe. Make sure that you have everything you need in advance of the winter weather. Check on your loved ones and anyone you know who may be especially vulnerable. As you just heard from Director Ray, we recommend the following actions as we navigate this winter weather event. Pay close attention to your local weather forecast and be prepared for whatever is expected in your area. Keep cell phones, mobile devices, spare batteries charged in case of power outages, and enable emergency alerts on your telephone so that you can hear from local emergency management agencies and the National Weather Service. Keep cabinet doors open, located under sinks, and let your faucets drip to prevent the pipes from freezing. In snowy and icy areas, please avoid traveling. The roads are the most dangerous place to be in a winter storm like this. If you have to be on the road, make sure that you have an emergency kit in your vehicle, including food, an ice scraper, jumper cables, a flashlight, extra clothing, blankets, water, and a first aid kit. Thank you, and at this point, we're happy to take any questions you have.
Governor, go on with our WCNC. If you could take a look at previous storms, what have we learned from those previous storms that you've been able to apply to the response today?
These folks are always on their front toes. So they anticipated this storm last week and began their preparations. The Department of Transportation has been brining the roads to make it harder for the ice to stick to the roads. Highway Patrol has all of their folks out making sure that they're tagging cars and getting them towed so that we're not worrying about these stray cars on the side of the road and do they have a person in them or not. The National Guard has put advance troops in eastern North Carolina and Kinston so that if there are needs for them to go out and rescue folks, they're on the ground ready to do it. So one unfortunate reality of living in North Carolina is we have a lot of bad weather. And when we have that weather, it gives us the experience to know what we need to do in anticipation of a storm. These things happened last week when we had the other winter weather event, and to my knowledge, no one died on the roads because of the storm.
And can you speak to what's being forecast to the eastern part of the state? Normally it would be the other way around, where we expect folks on the west to get more snow. Now it's different this time around?
Yeah, Director A can follow up, but the line is between Route 1 and 95.
You've been listening to a live press conference there with North Carolina Governor Josh Stein as the emergency management crews get the state ready for what is to be dangerously cold temperatures and snowy conditions, especially in eastern North Carolina.
Yeah, as you heard the governor there and emergency management, they've been pre-treating roads ahead of this storm. And although, Charlotte area not going to see a bulk of that snow, mostly eastern North Carolina and below us, even in South Carolina, it's still going to be dangerously cold outside.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we know we have already had a number of changes when it comes to schools. Many school districts in our area have canceled after-school activities. And you can head to our website, WCNC.com, for a list of all of those closures and reschedules.
All right, now we do want to get a check of the WCNC Weather Impact forecast with Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich, and he was talking about, Brad, how these temperatures are going to be with us for the next few days.
Yeah, really cold temperatures, and that's really the story, because the cold air, not only is it causing dangerous conditions for just the cold temperatures, the hypothermia, exposure, but it's also going to cause issues on the roads, even with light amount of snow. Can't emphasize this enough. We do not need a bunch of snow to cause issues on the roads. A half an inch or less would be very problematic for areas. That's why we're under the winter weather advisory for our area. You see the winter storm warnings basically south and east of I-20 and I-95. That's where the bulk of this winter storm is going to happen. Kind of a weird setup. I don't normally say, if you're the further south and east you go, the more snow you're going to get, but that's the case with this setup. This is the real story for everybody, though. Extreme cold warnings, and we've got cold weather advisories. This is basically for temperatures that will be in the single digits, if not below zero, from a wind chill standpoint or an air temperature standpoint. And we'll have a little bit of both over the next couple of days. We have not gotten above freezing today. I don't anticipate us doing that at all. We're going to stay below freezing probably most of tomorrow. You see the snow moving up from the southwest. Now, I will caution you, a lot of this is what we call virga. It's not reaching the ground. If you've been outside at all today, you know it's frigid, but inside your house, you're probably noticing how dry it is. The dew points are in the single digits to below zero. That's incredibly dry air. So the radar is picking the snow up in the cloud, but once it gets down below the cloud, it's evaporating. And now snow doesn't technically evaporate because it's a solid. It's called sublimation. It goes right from a solid back to a gas. Now the areas we are seeing some snow right in here, southeast of Charlotte. So Chesterfield, Lancaster, Anson, Richmond counties. That's where I expect we actually will get some accumulations. Further north and west might just be flurries. So this is that rare time I'm going to tell you, if you live south and east of I-85, that's where we're going to see the snow. North and west, not as much. Now, we are seeing snow reports coming out of the Midlands of South Carolina, Augusta, Georgia. But as you get up towards Interstate 85, very few reports of snow actually coming in. Temperatures, as I mentioned, we're in the teens and single digits in the mountains. Only mid to upper 20s right now. It's brutally cold out there. We are not going to see temperatures get above freezing, and the air is bone dry. This is part of the reason a lot of the snow is evaporating. When dew points, what's the last time you've seen a dew point below zero? That is Arctic dryness out there. So it's going to take a while. You see dew points out east a little bit higher. We're going to have to moisten up the low levels of the atmosphere before these flakes make it down to the surface. So some of the snow will go into evaporating that dry layer, but eventually we will see the snow reach the ground, and that will actually keep the temperatures chilly as well. So let's go hour by hour with our future cast. You see the band of snow. This is the area we'll watch by 4 or 5 o'clock. Roads could get slick very quickly. So a lot of school systems canceling their after-school activities, because literally after 5 o'clock, that's when I would expect we'll see the best chance of snow in some of these communities, but also the highest risk of the roads icing up. Now, again, the roads are pre-treated. They should be good in most cases, but because the ground temperature is so cold and this is a light, fluffy snow, this is not going to melt very easily or go anywhere. It's going to stick right to the road surface and cause issues. Now, even the snow that falls, it's done pretty much by 11 o'clock. And as we go into the overnight hours, skies will clear out, but the temperature will fall. Look at this, single digits, teens in the mountains, even here into the Piedmont. And again, this whole time, we're not getting above freezing, even through the middle of tomorrow afternoon. So we could go 48, 50, 60 hours below freezing. I don't think we're going to get back above freezing until sometime on Thursday afternoon. So how much snow are we talking about? You heard those totals, 2 to 4 inches near the coast, but there are some indications the Outer Banks could be up around 5 or 6. Widespread 2 to 4 and 1 to 2 south and east of those locations. Now, if you're near Interstate 85 and just a little bit north, you could see some flurries, but that's where we could see a trace to an inch. And again, it doesn't seem like a lot of snow, but it's not going to take much with the cold road temperatures. We've seen really bad conditions on roads with a ½ inch of snow, especially when the ground is this cold and the air is this cold. So here's the timing of everything. I do expect snow, light snow along and south of I-85 to start probably by 5 or 6 o'clock, last until maybe midnight at the latest, and then move out. But notice the road conditions or hazardous travel will actually stay pretty hazardous through the overnight because nothing's going to melt all the way through tomorrow morning. The good news here is there's no mixing with sleet, freezing rain. It's either snow or nothing at all. That's the setup. That's how cold it is. Good news, not heavy snow or ice, so we're not worried about power outages, but power demand is quite high, and you heard from the governor, charge everything up just in case. Probably the bigger threat is the draw on the power grid, and if we see a huge spike in that, we have seen issues where that causes problems. So tonight, where are the slick roads going to be? The gray areas where we could see limited slick roads, it's really once you get towards Anson, Richmond, Chesterfield, the areas in yellow where we expect some lower impacts. And again, this is primarily on roads. This is also a part of the state where there's not as much salt and brine, as well as trucks to get the roads treated. So not as much in the way of snow and sleet and ice removal in those areas. So could be more of an issue out there. So I expect we will see a lot of closures tomorrow with schools in that area. Temperature trends, this is the past 21 hours. Notice since last night, we have not been above freezing. And so far today, the warmest we've been is 30. And as we go through the next 21 hours, I don't expect temperatures to get above freezing at all. So you're talking about a very long period of time below freezing. So if you live in an older home or if you've had issue with pipes in the past, might be a good idea to drip those pipes the next couple of nights, maybe all the way through Thursday until we start to warm back up, guys.
All right, Brad, thank you for that update, and thank you for joining us here on WCNC Charlotte and WCNC Plus.
And we'll be back at 4 for our full newscast. See you then.
And so many storylines unfolding here as we talk about this transition. As we speak, dozens of hostages in the Israel-Hamas war are anxiously awaiting their releases. A ceasefire began yesterday for the first time in a year and a half. WCNC Charlotte's Julie Kay is joining us now. So, Julie, you've been following the story since it first broke. A few hostages have been released already. One from North Carolina is still waiting.
Yeah, Hamas has held Keith Siegel hostage since 2023. He was not in this first group of 3 released, though his family is still hopeful. But I spoke with a local doctor who volunteered in the region who says the impacts will last far beyond this agreement.
So in this situation, we were scanning for fluid around the lung, which...
In a conflict that can only be captured in pictures, the words you can find in between them say everything.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Dr. Azim Alahi is still struggling to find them.
Can't even imagine how much worse it could be.
He traveled to Gaza last April as a pulmonary and critical care specialist.
Wounds that you just cannot unsee because of burns, they're etched into your brain.
For 10 days, he left behind his home, his safety, and his kids.
At times you see your own family.
But 9 months later, hopeful news. A ceasefire deal reached. That means the release of hostages and prisoners on both sides.
But this is a scary time for sure. We want everyone to come home and have that same hug by their loved ones.
Even months after his return, Dr. Alahi still looks back on his time and what it means for those still there.
The need for medical care, the need for building is so immense. People are going home to rubble.
The conflict and the region left for now in an unsteady in-between. But through reminders of the children he met,
They'd make homemade kites
and the children he left at home.
This was my lifeline, by the way, these guys at home.
Dr. Elahi finds there's still hope for what's to come.
Their hope cannot be extinguished.
And the World Health Organization said this week none of Gaza's 36 hospitals are fully operational, so rebuilding will take a long time. At the end of this first phase, Hamas is supposed to release 33 hostages. Israel is set to release 1,900 prisoners. So far, they've released 90.
Just so many tough stories that we're hearing coming out of that area now.
Yeah, and we'll be hearing them for a long time. This is going to be a long-term operation here.
Indeed. All right, thanks for keeping us posted.
Time now to connect the dots when we make the news make sense. Speaking of finding new jobs, the job hunt can be frustrating enough. But what if the job you're applying to doesn't even exist?
Fake job postings are becoming a growing problem. Let's connect the dots. Ghost jobs are roles advertised online that companies have no intention of filling. According to Greenhouse, they make up as much as 1 in 5 job postings. Companies might post these jobs to look like they're growing or to keep options open to a standout candidate. But for job seekers, it creates a lot of frustration and mistrust. However, there are new tools to help. Greenhouse and LinkedIn now tag verified job posting to show they're legitimate. Experts also recommend networking as the most effective way to land a job in today's tough market. To avoid ghost jobs, look for red flags, like no clear timestamps or listings that have been up for months. And that is connecting the dots.
WCNC Charlotte is making a difference with your help. When you share your news tips, we go to work.
I sent you that email. 15 minutes later, you're responding to me.
When a Charlotte woman battling cancer lost her health coverage, we demanded answers.
Within hours of WCNC Charlotte asking questions, the agency responsible quickly corrected its mistake.
Let us get to work for you.
Reach out to newstips at WCNC.com. WCNC Charlotte, news that impacts you.
We turn now to some news that is likely very welcomed for hundreds of CMS employees.
Yeah, the district aims to raise the minimum wage of its staff to $20 an hour. This would be for workers like cafeteria employees, custodians, and bus drivers. If the board approves a bump, the changes will start next month.
WCNC Charlotte's Austin Walker is joining us live. So, Austin, how did CMS reach this decision?
Yeah, so CMS actually hired a third-party firm to conduct this compensation review, the first time since, get this, 2007, so a very long time. Obviously, some on the board very happy for this progress, but say still something needs to be done. Tuesday night, CMS Superintendent Crystal Hill sits with the rest of the CMS board, addressing a highly talked about issue.
The number one concern I received from employees was in regards to their compensation.
CMS hiring a third-party firm to figure out the appropriate new wage, impacting employees like maintenance workers, cafeteria workers, as well as bus drivers. The firm found Charlotte's high cost of living is the reason for the raise.
It's more expensive in Charlotte than anywhere else.
Long overdue.
CMS Chair Stephanie Sneed says these professions are often overlooked.
A classification study or compensation study is probably a better word, has not been done for Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools for that category of employees for 18 years.
And says as vacancies grow within CMS, a raise in minimum pay is a solution to this problem.
We live in a competitive market, right? So we're competing not only with not only other school districts within North Carolina and outside of, and as well as South Carolina, but we're competing with other private entities.
She acknowledges a $2 raise is still not enough, but there's progress.
In order to be able to get them, we have to start at some point.
According to the CMS board, the money to fund Phase 1 was requested and awarded by the county last year to the tune of over $13 million. Again, the vote to approve this will happen at the end of January. Of course, we will update you on air online at WCNC.com and on WCNC Plus, our streaming site. But for now, we're live in Charlotte. Austin Walker, WCNC Charlotte.
It's a discussion that's been happening across the state for a very long time, as Austin mentioned. All right, Austin, thank you for that.
Today, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department released its 2024 public safety report, highlighting a 3% decrease in overall crime across the city, but violent crimes and homicides trending in the wrong direction.
WCNC Charlotte's Jesse Pierre is live in Uptown with the breakdown. Jesse.
Yes, the report showing a mix of progress in areas that need some work. While overall crime and property crimes were down, violent crime still demanding attention as it is on the rise. Now in 2024, across the Queen City, violent crime rose 3%. There were 111 homicides in 2024. That is up 25% from the previous year. The agency says many cases started with an argument between people who knew each other.
People say, well, what do you want a goal to be for your homicides? My goal is 0. And as long as we have people that are out there killing each other, then I think we still have a lot of work to do.
The good news is CMPD is solving these cases with a clearance rate of over 75% for homicides, better than the national average. CMPD also recently launched Core 13, an effort to address hotspots that have a high number of crimes, increasing their presence in the areas that need them the most. The results, in just over a 2-month period, 75 guns seized and 123 arrests.
When we look at that short window towards the end of the year, every one of those guns really matters. You know, every one of those arrests, you know, hopefully broke a cycle of crime.
CMPD is also seeing success with stricter laws, especially with the legislation around street racing, making them illegal. After this, CMPD says street takeover pop-up events dropped by 88%. Now, still, challenges remain, like shootings into homes. Coming up at 5, I'll share what CMPD is doing to tackle this issue. Live in Uptown, Jesse Pierre, WCNC Charlotte.